They said time heals everything, but as the reunion hall doors opened and every mocking laugh from 10 years ago flooded back like ghosts waiting to feast, Maya Rivera realized time didn't erase wounds, it simply asked whether you were ready to face them again. Most people came to a reunion to show off rings, careers, or perfect smiles. But Maya came for something else entirely. She came to reclaim the girl they once crushed. And no one in that hall expected her to arrive the way she did, riding in on an Apache helicopter that shook the sky and froze every single person who once called her class loser. Maya Rivera spent most of high school blending into corners, the kind of student everyone knew existed but no one truly looked at. Her clothes were plain, never fashionable, her voice was soft, easy to drown with a single comment, her family lived paycheck to paycheck, and her classmates saw her as nothing more than a shadow they could shove around without consequence. Each day she moved through halls coded in whispers, loser, nobody, weird girl, and though she learned to pretend she couldn't hear them, every word carved itself into her bones. Teachers admired her intelligence, but intelligence didn't protect her in the cafeteria where a spilled tray or snatched notebook became entertainment. And while everyone else lived in groups, cheerleaders, athletes, the effortlessly cool Maya lived alone. But what people never saw was what she carried home. After school she picked up shifts at her mother's diner, tying on an apron and scrubbing tables long after her classmates curled under blankets to watch shows or gossip online. Some customers tossed tips without looking at her, others treated her like furniture. Yet even then, Maya listened. She listened to stories of people who survived heartbreaks, bankruptcies, illnesses, and somehow rebuilt from nothing. She held onto those pieces, believing one day she might rebuild too. Her sanctuary became the small attic room where she studied late into the night. She was fascinated by machines, engines, anything that roared to life because she wanted to roar too, someday. She devoured books about aviation, watched documentaries about rescue missions, sketched helicopters and jets while the rest of the world laughed at her big dreams. Her father, who had passed when she was 12, once told her, "Find something louder than their voices, Maya." She repeated that line every night until it became armor. Still, school never got easier. Senior year, the class president mocked her dream during a presentation where everyone announced their future plans. While others talked about college parties and easy courses, Maya spoke with trembling hands about joining the military, becoming a pilot, and one day commanding an aircraft. Laughter erupted across the room like a cruel applause. Someone shouted, "She can't even speak loud enough to order fries, how's she gonna fly anything?" The teacher did nothing. Maya walked back to her seat holding fragments of her dignity like broken glass. Graduation day came and went without pictures, without hugs, without invitations to after-parties. While her classmates celebrated, Maya sat on the hood of her old car under a quiet sky, watching stars and promising herself that life would not end where they left her. The next morning, she left the town behind with one suitcase and a scholarship she earned through relentless effort. Her mother hugged her tight and whispered, "Show them who you really are." And Maya carried those words all the way to military training, where everything changed. Training was brutal. Physically, emotionally, mentally, every weakness she ever believed she had was tested until it broke, reshaped, and hardened into something fierce. She pushed herself through exhaustion, through fear, through nights when she cried silently into a pillow but refused to quit. The same determination that once kept her invisible now made her unforgettable. Her instructors saw potential that her classmates never bothered to search for. They saw a leader forming inside a girl who had once been afraid to raise her hand. Years passed. Maya became one of the top helicopter pilots in her division. The Apache, rugged, powerful, unmistakably loud, became the very thing she mastered. She flew missions that required precision, courage, and calm in chaos. She earned respect not by demanding it, but by proving herself again and again until every fear melted into purpose. But even success doesn't erase the echoes of old wounds. So when the reunion invitation arrived, she almost threw it away. Almost. But something in her chest whispered that maybe this time, she didn't need to hide. Maybe she needed to return, not for them, but for the girl she used to be. The girl who once sat alone with her tray knocked to the floor. She decided she would go. But she wouldn't walk in quietly this time. Not anymore. The morning of the reunion dawned bright and cloudless, the kind of day that looked calm but hummed with possibility. Maya stood on the airfield beside the Apache helicopter she had spent years mastering. Its dark metal skin reflected the sun like armor. She ran her hand across the surface, feeling the vibration of memories, of missions, of failures overcome, of victories earned. She took a breath, steady and strong, then climbed into the cockpit. As the blade spun, kicking dust into the air, she felt the familiar shift inside her, the transformation from the girl they mocked to the woman she became through grit and fire. The engine roared to life, louder than every insult she ever heard. And in that moment, she knew she would no longer be defined by the voices of people who never understood her. She was defined by the roar beneath her. When she neared the town, the reunion banquet hall sat near the edge of the field where her class once held pep rallies. Cars lined the parking lot, guests in bright clothes stepping inside, laughing, posing, comparing lives. They were expecting her to arrive unnoticed, perhaps through the back door. They expected a quiet Maya, forgettable Maya, small Maya. They were not expecting the sky to tremble. The Apache descended with controlled force, its wind blasting across the field as people froze mid-step. Some screamed, others shielded their faces, others stared in disbelief. The helicopter touched down with a power that silenced every conversation. Dust swirled. Dresses whipped in the wind. Being dramatic wasn't her goal, but stepping into her own power was. And then the door opened. Maya stepped out wearing her uniform, medals glinting in the sunlight, posture steady, chin lifted. For the first time in their lives, they didn't see a loser, they saw someone extraordinary. Someone unrecognizable only because she finally became who she was meant to be. Whispers spread like wildfire. Is that Maya? No way, she flies that thing? Holy. She walked toward the entrance, passing former classmates who parted like waves around her. No shoves, no laughter, no cruel comments, only stunned faces reflecting a truth they never imagined. The girl they once belittled had flown higher than any of them. Inside the hall, the class president, the same man who once mocked her dream, stood frozen by the podium. He tried to speak, but his voice faltered as Maya approached. His polished smile collapsed under the weight of reality. Maya. This is unexpected. She offered him a steady, patient look. Only because you never expected much from me. There was no anger in her voice. Only clarity. The room fell silent. People listened. People who once avoided her now wanted to understand her. She shared a story not of revenge, not of bitterness, but of resilience. She spoke about rising from a lonely girl to a pilot trusted with lives. She told them about failure, perseverance, late nights of studying in an attic, the journey through training, and the discipline required to fly something as powerful as the Apache. And she ended with a message that struck the room like a quiet thunder. Never underestimate the quiet ones. Sometimes silence is just strength growing roots. Some cried. Some lowered their heads. Some realized they had spent years chasing approval, while she chased purpose. And she found it. The reunion ended with students lined up to speak with her, to apologize, to admire, to learn. But Maya didn't come for their praise. She came to free herself from the last chain holding her to the past. As she walked back to the helicopter, she felt lighter than she ever had before. The Apache waited, a symbol of everything she had become: loud, powerful, unignorable. She lifted off into the open sky, leaving the past beneath her, small and distant. And she carried with her the truth she hoped someone listening, someone like she once was, would never forget. You don't need to fit their world when you're meant to build your own.